All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Those of you that don't know, this is DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we talk through last night's slate and then we'll game plan today's slate. And then, of course, at 6 p.m. Eastern today, a little bit later, we'll have the pre-lock show with Brandon where we'll talk through leverage plays, core plays, and the execution of what we're doing on this slate. That is only for VIP members. Link in the description if you're interested in that. But anyway, last night was a good night. It was a good night. Hopefully, we can keep that going. But let me pull it up. Let's see here. I have a few guys I want to shout out. Schmad, DFS Army member, had a top 10 line in the 20 max contest. Took sixth place. Just wanted to shout him out. Had a really nice line. He had Jordan Poole, we had a 10% min on him on the pre-lock show yesterday, so that went well. But my guy Madness put a shout out to everyone in the Discord that Jordan Poole was a GPP play for him. So glad that went well. And just a really nice line he put together here. So shout out to him for that. And then Diesel Hog, I just love shouting out guys when I catch it. Sometimes I don't have enough time to screenshot every person's winning night, but I love seeing someone who put $15 in and was able to win $200. Just great contest selection and just a really good night for him in general. So congrats to you, man. And my guy Rick took fourth place in the mini max last night. Congrats to you, man. Also had a really nice line. Yeah, okay, nice. So 369 was really good. And he said this was the second top five finish he's had in the mini max over the last 3 days. So on a nice little heater there. So congrats to you, man. Hopefully we can keep that going. And then right here we have the $100,000 winning lineup. Tyrese Maxey was a core play. We were significantly over the field on Maxey, and that went well. That went well. The one guy I was not on at all was Zach LaVine. Overtime helped, but Zach LaVine was doing well even before the overtime win. So, I mean, it was just a good game for Zach LaVine. Kyle Anderson, we had a 30% min on him for the pre-lock show, so we had exposure to him. Okongwu was a core play. He was in every single lineup. Isaiah Jackson, you had to stay towards the end of the pre-lock show, but he ended up being a core play. First, we forced exposure to him, and then on my last run, he became a core play. Fred VanVleet, we had a 10% min on, so that went pretty well. Jalen Johnson, my guy Thomas Dye right here mentioned Jalen Johnson on the pre-lock show yesterday. I didn't force exposure to Jalen Johnson. I wasn't getting a lot of him last night naturally, but I definitely wish I had more of him. I think he ended up showing up in a few more lines, but I didn't force exposure to him. Miles Turner was a core play. So, yeah, last night went well. My 20 max was pretty meh, but my 3 max lines really helped me stay afloat and just made it a good night. So, all in all, that was good. Let's try and keep it going. I lose. What's up, man? Hope you're doing all right. Thomas Dye, good to see you. Zolo's here, and Doogie said scored a 394 last night. That's awesome, man. Sounds like you did very well. Congrats. So let's jump into it, guys. Of course, we have a nice 4-game slate. Not too many games. We can take our time here. The most interesting thing to me about tonight is something that we have absolutely no information on yet. The Boston Celtics, they played last night. They went into overtime against the Timberwolves. It was a really good game. They were able to pull out the win. Tonight, they have a really tough matchup against the Bucks. We've seen this happen before where the Celtics end up sitting a few guys in this spot. We have no idea who they will be. We also have no idea if they will end up sitting guys. But it wouldn't shock me if they do end up sitting some pieces here. So we already have some decent value with the Mavs tonight. But if we get more injury news for the Celtics, I think this could be a very interesting spot for quite a few of these guys, depending on who ends up playing and who doesn't. We do know that Kristaps Porzingis will probably play tonight. Looking at his ownership, I am already interested in him. I think he's significantly low owned. We know that I like targeting the games with the highest totals. This game has the highest total. The Bucks are not a defense we have to be worried about at this point. And I don't know. I think Porzingis will get more chalky as we get closer to lock, especially if Tatum or Brown or both end up sitting. I think he's probably just going to be relatively popular, but we'll see. And the reason why I feel pretty good about Porzingis is because there's a very high likelihood that Al Horford ends up sitting tonight. So that just secures his minutes and things of that sort. So I like Porzingis in this spot. Outside of Porzingis, a little hard for me to take a shot on anyone here right now just because we don't know who is going to play. They could all play. And if they all play, I'm not super interested in anyone in particular, but I'm hoping we get some news here where some people want to sit and rest after a pretty late night last night going into OT. Yeah, that was a good one. We did force exposure to Bruce Brown. So yeah, thanks, man. Forgot about that one. I'm glad that one went well. Nimbard did not, though. Nimbard was a huge disappointment. Terry Rozier was a huge disappointment. So those were a few calls that didn't go as well. There's probably more, too. Fox didn't go great. Sabonis was doing very well, but the blowout really hurt him. So there was a lot that went well last night, but there were some calls that missed, too, which was unfortunate. Next up, we have the Bucks going up against the Celtics. For the Bucks, it looks like everyone's going to be healthy. Let me double check and make sure I'm not missing anything here. Damian Lillard is available. Cameron Payne is probable. Yeah, no real injury news here. My typical philosophy is forcing exposure to the stud who's in the highest game total game. It's going to be hard for me to get to Giannis here. I'm not going to go out of my way to fade him. If he shows up a little bit, that's fine, but I don't love making him a priority tonight. I'm only running 20 lines again tonight. If I was 150 maxing, I would probably just match the field on Giannis, but with only having 20 lines, Giannis just isn't going to be a priority for me. Maybe if some of the Celtics guys end up getting ruled out, that might make it a little bit more interesting, but that also increases the likelihood of a blowout. So just don't love the spot. I prefer Damian Lillard in this spot. Still not the best matchup against the Celtics, but again, if some of these guys end up getting ruled out, that makes the matchup a bit softer than it would be on paper. So I want to keep an eye on Lillard. He's not super chalky for a 4-game slate. You'll see what real chalk looks like as we go towards some of the other games. So I don't hate taking a shot on him. Chris Middleton at 7,800 feels a little pricey for me, but not unreasonable by any means. But again, I just think there's better plays on the slate. Let's see. Anyone else that I want to mention? No, I don't really like a lot of the pieces. But again, this is the game total of the highest spread. So the highest game total. So if anyone does show up naturally in the domination station, I'm not going to go out of my way to take them out. What's up, PZ? Hope you're doing well, man. Jeremy said at Doogie, that would have been $20K in the 150 on FanDuel. Scored a 358 there. Whew. Yeah, that would have been an awesome night right there. Contest selection is so important. So important. Rick, what's up, man? Just talked about you. Good night last night. Did you see the Celtics are 4-point dogs? What's up with that? Maybe the optimizer's behind? No. We're on the same page. I'm just a little slow. Yeah, I mean, the Bucks are a really good team. So even if everyone played, it wouldn't shock me if the Bucks had a decent lead, especially knowing the Celtics played really late into the night last night. They went into OT, gonna be a little sluggish after a game like that. So it wouldn't shock me. I mean, the spread doesn't shock me even if all of the Celtics do play, just because of they're on the back end of a back-to-back. But I do think some of the Celtics are going to sit tonight, to be honest. Jamie, random thought, but RJ Barrett and Quickly look so much better on the Raptors. Yeah, it's just looking like a really good trade for both sides at this point. So maybe a little bit better for the Knicks, but you're right. They both do look a lot better. All right. PZ, man, I'm not looking at that at all, to be honest with you. I always just kind of focus on the main slate. I don't do too many showdowns or things of that sort. I couldn't even tell you who's playing, to be honest with you. All right. We talked about the Bucks. I'm really only looking at Lillard. No one else really stood out for me as of right now. I have a pretty good grip on what I'm doing today, for the most part, if we don't get any more news. So I'm not trying to get overly creative with some of these guys. For the Trailblazers, there's some injury news that matters per usual. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful. Jabari Walker is questionable. And then Moses Brown has been out for a good bit. Jabari Walker being questionable is the thing that matters probably the most to me here. We already know the Trailblazers have a crap ton of guards. They have Simons, they have Scoot, they have Brogdon, they have Sharp. I don't love forcing exposure to guys like Sharp and Brogdon. They're just not seeing enough minutes at this point in time. Scoot has upside, but I think he's priced appropriately at 6K. And with everyone healthy, I'm not trying to take a shot on him. Simons, I do like at 7,400. He has the highest usage rate out of these guards. He has the role that's solidified. We know he's going to see at least 30 minutes. And at 7,400 in a matchup against the Thunder that doesn't scare me, I wanted to make sure I have exposure to him. He is looking like the chalkiest guy on this team, so he's not a sneaky play by any means, but he is going to be someone that if he's not showing up in my initial runs or by the time we get to the pre-lock show, I am willing to force exposure to him. So that's how I'm thinking about him right now. Grant doesn't move the needle for me. Reith will be in a good amount of my lines. I know he disappointed a lot of people last time out. I think he's a better play if Walker gets ruled out. That's why Walker being questionable is so important to me, because if Walker plays, Reith doesn't have to play as many minutes. Whereas if Walker sits, then that means they'll have to have Reith out there a bit more, even if they don't want him to be out there as often as he is. So that's how I'm kind of thinking about them right now. I'm really just looking at Simons and Reith, or just Simons and whoever else the DS wants to toss into the mix. So we saw OKC play Portland earlier this year, and it was a blowout. And so if you look at the game logs for SGA, Chet, really anyone who played in this game, they all disappointed because they didn't play a lot. Does that mean that will happen again? No. But the spread is high for a good reason. The Thunder are way better than the Portland Trailblazers, so there's some risk. For me, SGA super chalky. He's showing up already naturally for me in my lines, so I'm okay getting exposure to him. But again, he's not someone I'm trying to force exposure to. He's just a really good player. He projects well, good matchup, so he's showing up. Logical, but I am a little worried about that spread, so I'm not going to force too much exposure to him just because of that risk. I'm more so willing to make Chet a priority because he's 7,900 and he has that 40, 50, 60 point upside. 60 is a little extreme, more like 40, 50, but he does have really nice upside, especially if this game stays close. And that's kind of why I am making sure I have Simons in a decent amount of lines, because I would rather play, hey, what if this game stays close, instead of trying to play the fade narrative. So we'll see. We'll see. Outside of that, you cannot trust the role players for OKC. Josh Giddey, his minutes are everywhere. Lou Dort was benched at halftime last game for Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace still didn't even play that much in that last game. Isaiah Joe is a streaky shooter who doesn't see enough run to be viable. Just a really, really gross team. If you end up landing on these guys, I would strongly try to avoid it, but it is a 4-game slate, so I do think a guy like Lou Dort or Jalen Williams or Giddey or Joe, like if they're like your one dart throw you just want to take a shot on, they're okay. I just think we have better value on this slate than them. And if the Celtics play out the way I want it to, I think we'll have better plays than them as well. So I'm really only prioritizing Chet, and SGA is showing up a good bit for me. You guys might be saying, how are you building the rest of your lines if you're really just focusing on a lot of the studs? A lot of them will come from the Mavs tonight for me. Yeah, Jamie, I don't hate that. I mean, I don't hate Jalen Williams. I think these are the 3 guys who see consistent minutes: Williams, Holmgren, and SGA. They're the guys who are the most viable. For me, I just like Chet's upside a little bit more, but Jalen Williams in a soft matchup can definitely get there. In similar ownership, and he's 700 cheaper. I don't hate that play at all. But as of right now, I'm just not on it. I have things like the sim model and other tools I use just pointing towards Chet a little bit more. So next up, we have the Knicks going up against the Mavs. We've been saying it forever, guys. The Mavs struggle against bigs. It's been pretty consistent all year. Just going to keep doing that. Julius Randle is the guy that I want to utilize in this spot to bully the Mavs a good bit here. Really like this spot for him. He's the guy I'm going to make a priority for the Knicks tonight. We're seeing a good amount of ownership on Brunson and Isaiah and Dante and Hart. All these guys are seeing decent ownership. They're fine. I like the value from the Mavs a bit more. And if we get value from the Celtics, I would like that a bit more. But I'm okay with these guys showing up in my lines to some extent. I'm just not going to prioritize them. But like I said, really good spot for Randall. He's going to be a priority for me. I don't really care if Brunson shows up too much. I'm not going to force him in. Matchup against the Mavs isn't scary or worrisome. The Mavs do play at a faster pace without Luka, so it does make a lot of these guys more viable than they usually would be for me. And again, all the totals on this slate are good, so not overly concerned about a lot of the fill-in pieces here. Now, the Mavs is where I'm getting the meat of my lineups. These guys are just I'm just going to place them in there, fill them in. They're cheap. They're priced appropriately for the situation. And we know these Mavs guys can burn us. We've seen it a lot this season already, but I'm usually willing to take that kind of risk if I like what else I'm getting, which at this point I do. So we'll see. Zello homecoming game. Uh-oh. I didn't realize he was from Dallas, to be honest with you. But hey, I already liked him, so you give me a little bit more of a narrative. I'm down. I am down. For the Mavs, the obvious thing here, Luka Doncic is out. He's not playing tonight. Dante Exum, out. Two guys who see a crap ton of minutes. Derek Lively's doubtful. Kleba, doubtful. One thing that matters a lot for me on this slate, we already talked about who was it? Jabari Walker, questionable tag. The Grant Williams questionable tag matters just as much for me. If he sits, that solidifies Derrick Jones as a core play for me. That makes Dwight Powell stomachable. Like, I'll be willing to play him if that happens. And it solidifies Josh Green's minutes. Josh Green shouldn't be a core play for me, but it will make me okay with him playing, with him showing up in my lines. If Grant Williams plays, then I am a lot less excited about Derrick Jones just because his minutes become a bit less secure. Same thing with Josh Green. Similar story for Dwight Powell, plays like that. So for now, I'm comfortable being significantly over the field on those guys because I'm hoping Grant Williams ends up not playing tonight. But this is another wait and see approach. Hope we get the news early enough so we can feel good about this situation. Kyrie Irving, super chalk on the slate. Doncic's not playing. He's only 9K. I don't think I need to talk about this too much. Darius, what's up, man? You're right. Now, I know this is a revenge game for Brunson. I just forgot to mention it. That is great. I wonder, that might be why he's so chalky. This is a good narrative like that, especially to a team that didn't even give him a contract, didn't even want to consider paying him. You know, I might have to make sure I get a little bit of Brunson today. That's a really good call out because that's one of those situations where NBA players are a little bit more emotional than some other guys in other sports just in general. But that was just a rough way to leave. And it wouldn't shock me if the Knicks are like, hey, let's make sure Brunson has a game today. So I still want to prioritize Randall, but Brunson needs to show up a little bit just because of that. And it's a good spot, good matchup. I just didn't love the ownership, but it makes a little bit more sense now. What's up, Rodney? He said, in 20 max, what do you think about 80 to 100% Jaden Hardy? Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we don't really have much of a choice, in my opinion. You can either do that, which I am. I'm going to have 80 to 100%, probably close to 100% Hardy tonight, or you completely fade him. When someone's 68% owned, I don't love just matching the field on that. In 20 max, I like to just go one way or the other. And typically, if it makes sense to me, which this spot does, especially if he starts, which he should, and he has been, he's going to be in all my lines. And he's only 3,700. I can't think of a great reason to fade him, to be honest. But if you're just a super contrarian guy and you're like, hey, Super Chalk X out, that's an approach too. Jamie said different in prices for sure, but it's funny that Mavs decided to keep Dwight Powell. Yeah, one of these days they'll find a good big. Derek Lively's not bad, but he's been hurt a lot, which is a bit of a buzzkill for them. But anyway, I like the Mavs. Like I said, these guys allow me to play the guys I want to play. So I'm going to be all over them. Hardy, Jones, Hardaway, Irving is going to be the guys that I feel the best about. And the guys I'll have the most ownership to, they'll probably all end up being core plays for me. Tim Hardaway Jr. is just way too cheap at 5,300. Even if his shot's not falling tonight, it's still going to be really hard for him not to pay off that price tag. Kyrie Irving does have to have a good game tonight, but I still love the game environment for him. I think it's a good spot. So I'll have all of them. Next up, we have the last game on the slate. Will be on TNT, if that matters for you all. It doesn't matter for me too much, but there's one player on the Lakers that it matters for me a little bit more for. The Suns are healthy, which is not something we've been able to say too much this season. And what I mean by healthy is their big three is healthy. Eric Gordon is questionable, but that matters a lot less when Bradley Beal is playing. So that doesn't really move the needle for me too much. Nasir Little is available. Bol Bol's available. Udoka's available. So they're pretty healthy at this point. You can obviously choose to take a shot on KD. I like his low ownership. He's on my radar as a potential leverage play, but nothing's really pointing towards playing KD tonight when this team is healthy. Even going up against the Lakers, it's just an okay matchup. Nothing's really standing out as, hey, you have to play Kevin Durant today for me, which is leading to his low ownership. But outside of the low ownership, I can't really find a great reason to play him. So I'm going back and forth on it. I'll probably end up taking a shot here, to be honest with you, just because it's a 4-game slate. There's only so many guys who are low owned, but I'm struggling with it a little bit. Devin Booker's 8,900. I love the low price tag on him, but again, I'm not feeling strongly about him or Beal here when everyone's healthy. I do want to take a shot on Booker here soon, especially if his price tag continues to fall, but the matchup's not standing out for me too much. Nurkic was another guy I wanted to take a shot on. Ultimately, let me check my note right here, make sure I still agree with it. Yeah, ultimately, I just don't like the way he plays against AD. I just don't think it matches up very well for him. So it's a tough one. It's a 4-game slate. It's hard to find guys to get extreme leverage on. And you all know, like, I'm just a leverage guy. I like to focus on that. So all these guys, I'm okay with them showing up in my lines, but there's no one here that I'm just like, hey, this is my leverage play for the day or anything like that. The Lakers, this is where things get a bit more interesting. Let's see. I think I missed some comments. Rodney, if Horford sits, there's not really anyone who sees a big move in regards to like who you should play, just because this is something that happens pretty consistently. Everyone's priced pretty appropriately for this role. So it's not really Hauser or Cornette that you want to play in this spot because Horford sits. You usually get to those guys, and it would be Cornette if Porzingis and Horford are out. That's usually when we try to hit the value centers. But when it's just Horford and not Porzingis out too, those plays are a little bit more thin. Frank Vogel revenge game. Oh, so you were on it today. I appreciate that, man. I really do. Jack said, "What's up, man? In all seriousness, I'm in need of your Midas touch. Hey, I'll try, man. I'll try." Thomas, man, you're on it. I have the like on LeBron James. I like his price tag. I like AD, but AD is super chalky. Super chalky. And he's priced appropriately for me in this role. The Lakers have faced Phoenix a good amount of times. AD has gone up against Nurkic a good amount of times. He's had games where he is able to hit 60 points. He's able to have 40 points, 50 points this season, but he hasn't had those explosive 70-point performances, which you are really looking for at this price tag. So AD on this slate is just another guy I'm just like, yeah, he's fine. He makes sense. He's not a bad play by any means, but there's nothing that makes him stand out too much for me. Whereas the sim model does like AD a little bit, but the sim model always likes AD. But anyway, LeBron James is the priority for me here. I'm going to make sure he shows up in my lines if he's not showing up originally. I like his price tag. The matchup against KD is solid. I think this is just a decent spot for him. And I think I'm off the prime time only LeBron James narrative because LeBron's just been pretty solid this year. But I do think TNT, he loves the spotlight. Everyone's talking about it. It's just another reason I'm going to play him. I guess I have to mention LeBron's questionable, but that doesn't matter. So LeBron James is the priority for me here. Christian Wood has been better as of late. He's been in good form. You can consider him. I just think we have much better value plays on the slate, so he's not a necessity for me. I'm okay with Christian Wood showing up for me at less than 20% ownership for me tonight, but he's not someone I want to see show up a ton. Yeah, they need to trade somebody. They need to spice things up a little bit. In my opinion, they have a few too many guards. Yeah, he's okay. I mean, this season, Doogie. LeBron has his good seasons. Some seasons he's basically invisible. Don't play with me like that. You knew what I meant. He's been like surprisingly good this season, even for his standards. So I like him. I like LeBron today. I'm prioritizing him. AD is a decent play. If he shows up a little bit for me, that's fine. Yeah, just looking at everything. It's a decent slate. It's a decent 4-game slate. I'm hoping we get more news with the Celtics, but that's just more of a wait and see approach. So, per usual, we'll have more of, hey, this is what we're going to do on the pre-lock show, which will be at 6 p.m. Eastern today. Outside of that, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and I wish you all nothing but luck. Good luck, guys. Peace out.